Hi, this is my sharing for assignment number 4, going back to go forward. So my original question for this entire class was, how can I use different elements of musicality, particularly the more intricate elements that are often used in hip-hop choreography? How can I use those to influence my contemporary choreography? So as I began this process, my overall focus was the music, as I don't hear music well and I don't count music well. So I knew I was going to have to really focus on the music in order to pick up the intricacies that I was trying to work with. However, what I really didn't even have on my radar at all was improvisation. And that particular mode of research has just proved so influential in this process. I kind of stumbled upon it at the beginning because, as I've said before, I'm not very comfortable with improvisation, and it's not a first choice for me. So I kind of stumbled upon it, and then I decided to just kind of keep going with it. And now at the end of this semester, as I look back on my research for the past 3 to 4 months, I realize that I am now, especially within the last month, I am leaning more towards improvisation than anything else. In fact, the last few weeks of being in the studio, I would go to sit down, focus on the music, have counts written out, and I would go to choreograph set movement. And each time I started to do it, I just found myself improvising. It was almost like I had ADD. Like, I would start to do set choreography and then I would just go off into improvisation land, and new things were happening every time I did that. And even though it's very gradual, I'm getting more and more comfortable with allowing my body to, and my mind, to just go to these places that I'm not used to. And I am a very list-oriented, detail-oriented person, and I like things to fit in their little places, and it's the exact same with my movement. I like to know what's going to happen and when it's going to happen, and this idea of improvisation is totally throwing that off. But what's been so surprising is just how comfortable I'm getting with it and how it's becoming my first choice as a way to research movement. And of course, I'm noticing that there are some patterns that are starting to arise. One thing that's been interesting is that I'm noticing patterns of movement kind of arise within my improvisation, but it's not patterns of movement that I typically am used to. Of course, there are times when my style and what's familiar to me comes through, of course, absolutely. But there are way more moments of new things happening. And I find myself kind of doing some sort of movement that I've done maybe a few times, but it's brand new, like within the process of this semester. So that's been extremely interesting. Another tool that I have really used this semester during this process, upon your recommendation, is Image of the Singing Air. And she really breaks down music in that book, how to read music, what each note stands for. And although I'm getting a lot from that, I wish that I had started this process a little bit more focused on that, because I do not read music at all. Like, I don't even know what the notes are called. So now that I've been reading that book more in the past couple of months, I'm realizing that if I had started with a little bit more basic understanding of music itself, it might have given me, it would have given me a firmer understanding of how to hear the music. Because what I am consistently running into is that I will hear the music, or I will do something in my improvisation, and it will fit perfectly, it will work beautifully, and then I will not be able to find that again. Even if I happen to catch it on video, going back and hearing it the same way that I heard it that first time, or whenever it happened to just kind of gel, I'm having trouble with that. And I just know that that stems from my lack of really being able to hear music and understand what I'm hearing and count it and have that basis. So I do wish that I had started this process with a little bit more music study, and that is something that I absolutely have begun to do in the past couple of months, specifically with her book. But also just my sister is a beautiful singer and reads music, and so we've started to work a little bit together, being in this department. There's tons of singers and musicians. So there are a lot of people at my fingertips that I can kind of talk with, and I have definitely begun that process, and that is something that I want to continue into EP3, but also just for life in general. As a dancer, you really should be able to count music and hear it. So that's something that, looking back, I wish I had focused on a little bit more at the beginning, but it's starting to work its way in now. So what I've been doing, because I don't hear music and really know what I'm listening to, as far as what the notes are called, I have been using notations that are completely made up and probably not logical at all. But what it's helping me do is it's helping me visualize on a sheet of paper what I'm hearing, because the trouble I'm having with hearing something and then hearing it again the same way is what's really tripping me up trying to put movement to it. And so being able to draw that out in my crazy, not probably making any sense to anyone else in the world formation, it's really helping me see visually, this is what I'm trying to match with my movement. This is what I'm hearing. And for some reason, as I'm listening, it's easy for me to jot down on paper and make these little notes that then I can go back and look at and go, okay, there were 4 beats right here. Whereas if I just listen to it, I can try my hardest to count it, but then 10 seconds later, I'm like, wait, was it 4 beats? Was it 3 beats? So I don't know why, but this is working beautifully for me. It's so helpful. And again, that is something that I have recently discovered within maybe the past month and a half. So I really want to continue to carry that into EP3, as well as just my practice in general. And I think that the more I study music, the more that will become a part of my process. As far as relating this to a game, which was one of the things that you pointed out at the end of the 3rd assignment, and I had lost touch with that a little bit. So one of the things that I've been doing since the last assignment is just going back and kind of revisiting some rules to the games. And there are a couple different ones. One that I've been working with is, because improvisation is becoming such a huge part of this process and just a part of my practice in general, not even just in this class. I have given myself a task, or the rules to the game have become improvise for as long as possible without repeating a movement. That has been my just problem with improvisation in the past, is I get so stuck in my head that the movement that comes out when I move is just the same 5 steps reconfigured in different patterns, because that's all I can think about, because my mind just gets stuck. So this task, or this game that I've given myself, is to play this music that I'm working with for this particular project just over and over again, and improvise and go as long as I can. Let's say the first time I get 15 seconds, then let's go shoot for 16, shoot for 17. But to see how long I can move without repeating anything that I've done so far. So that's been one task. Another task or game that I've given myself within this project is how many, particularly with this song, because it is extremely intricate with the number of accents that there are, how many of those accents can I hit? Which is interesting, because in the game, that's my sole task. How many of these accents can I hit? However, when I translate that to my actual choreography, I don't use all of those accents, because what I have discovered through this process is that if you hit every single accent that is being made by the musicians, it's too much to watch. Like for an audience member, even to watch myself, like it's like you're bombarded with movement. So it's not visually appealing at all to hit every single little accent, and I'm not even sure if it's physically possible. But it is a great task and a great game, and then from that, I can pick and choose, these moments worked really well, these moments didn't, and put that into the actual set choreography. I could really talk about this process forever because it has been so groundbreaking for me, and not necessarily with the specific movement that's coming out, but how my mindset has changed just from the beginning of September to now. It's just huge, major things that I have dealt with and that have held me back in my personal career and in my life. And I just feel like I'm breaking through such barriers mentally for myself. So I could talk for hours about this process, but I think there's still a 10-minute time limit, so I'm gonna wrap it up. But the 2 points of assessment that I've chosen to look at are A, did I use tasks for a game? Because after my last set of feedback, sorry, I couldn't think of the word, feedback from you, I realized that I had not really been focused on my game at all. So I really focused on that one for this last portion. And then the second one is, did I explain how my process has evolved and point out the differences between how I started this process and what it has turned into now. I hope you enjoy. As always, if you have any questions, please ask. I have been very excited about this entire process, so I'm thoroughly enjoying it and look forward to EP3.
Which is more